welcome you to the second annual South Carolina High School League Health and Wellness Summit. On behalf of the Commissioner, Dr. Jerome Singleton, and the entire staff, as well as Prisma Health, come on in to your Health and Wellness Summit.
In your school, your coach or your administrator nominated you to come today. So I hope you're taking some notes, or you're at least going to think about some of these things that we preach about, and you'll take it back to your team and make it a better experience. So to get us started,
fitness and nutrition to sleep and mental clock to support
Can somebody? Team South Carolina and Prisma Health had a few hiccups here, had some technology challenges. Hopefully, got it together now, and we're in a really good place for this outstanding summit that we have planned for you. Let me try one other thing here and see if I'm back online like I should be here.
I'm Dr. John Gleason, Executive Vice President and Chief Clinical Officer of Prisma Health. Prisma Health welcomes you to this year's Health and Wellness Summit. Today, we are going to expand your playbook by sharing ways to maintain good health and physical conditioning, both now and far into the future. Prisma Health has a team more than 29,000 strong across the Midlands and the Upstate to help you and your team stay healthy. From fitness and nutrition to sleep and mental health, we are here around the clock to support your physical, mental, and emotional health. Prisma Health supplies 80 certified athletic trainers at 135 schools across our state to make sure student athletes play safely, and if injury does occur, expertise is on hand for immediate treatment and rehabilitation. Our primary care doctors are central to ensuring overall health and wellness and conduct physicals for countless student athletes every year. Our highly trained orthopedic doctors are nationally renowned and have years of dedicated experience working with athletes on a professional, collegiate, and high school level. We're the official team doctors for both the Gamecocks and the Tigers. So should you suffer an injury, our team of doctors and therapists have what it takes to allow you to safely return to playing condition. Know that at Prisma Health, our clinical care professionals are always on your team for learning the keys to good health, and good health is always a winner.
Thank you, Dr. Gleason, and thank you, Team Prisma. Wow, you know, things are great when technology works like you planned for it to, but every now and then you'd have that hookup. However, we are really excited here at the South Carolina High School Leader in our second annual Health and Wellness Summit. What an outstanding group of medical professionals from Prisma that's going to present to you today. We're not going to have any hiccups get in our way. I have a few requests of my student athletes out there this morning. Be very attentive. Take great notes. If you have any question during this morning's summit, please put them in the chat or Q&A section down there. Now, I do realize, athletes, that you all are in many different settings. Some of you are on your personal devices, kind of what we call one-on-one. Other are in small group settings like athletic councils, like my team from Beaufort County at Whale Branch Early College, the first school to register for today's summit. Many are in classroom settings like the principals of athletic training class at Belton Honea Path. Others in multi-purpose rooms like Bates Middle School, and even auditoriums from the Greenville, Columbia, and Charleston area. Whatever setting you're in today, we ask that you enjoy today's summit. And now I will turn the program over to the newest member of the South Carolina High School League, Ms. Ramanda Noble Watson. Joined the staff on yesterday. While new to the staff, Ms. Ramanda is a seasoned veteran in sports information direction. She has worked at the NCAA Division I, Division II, and NAIA levels. A native of Washington, D.C., Ms. Ramanda has worked in sports information at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore, Howard University, South Carolina State University, Claflin University, and most recent, Columbia College. I welcome to the stream the new Director of Communications at the South Carolina High School League, Ms. Ramanda Noble Watson.
Thank you, Danny. Hopefully all you can hear me okay. I have the pleasure of introducing our panelists for this morning's session. Our first panelist is Ms. Jaquie Jones, Dr. Jaquie Jones. Dr. Jones is a family medicine physician with Prisma Health Family Medicine in Columbia, South Carolina. She earned her medical degree at Loyola University in Chicago and completed her residency programs at John H. Troger Junior Hospital of Cook County and Loyola University Medical Center. A member of the Alabama women's basketball team from 1996 to 2000, Dr. Jones was spotlighted earlier this year by the Southeastern Conference during its celebration of the 50th anniversary of Title IX. She led the Alabama team to 3 NCAA tournament appearances and was an active volunteer in community service initiatives via the Life Skills program while at Alabama. Throughout her career, she has received acknowledgments for strengthening interdivisional collaboration and most recently been a change agent in the area of community pandemic education. Please welcome to the screen, Dr. Jaquie Jones.
Good morning. I hope everyone can hear me. If you can't, tell me now in the text in the chat so that I'll know to make any adjustments. All right, so I am Dr. Jaquie Jones. I am a family medicine physician here at Prisma Health. I take care of people in the outpatient setting, and so I take care of everyone. So my primary job is to make sure people like you and you and you and you stay healthy, stay on your feet, and are able to do the things that you come to do and that you love to do. So I today am presenting on life after sports. Now I know for a lot of my high school athletes in there, some of my high school athletic programs, sports is still going and sports is ongoing for you. So some of you all are going to play college, some of you all may even go on to play professional sports, but in the meantime, it's never too late to prepare for life after sports, because I think those of us who have a plan will make sure to be able to execute that plan. You also prepare your body for now and later, and you cannot go wrong in doing that, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen here really quickly and get started. Okay. So this is Life of the Sports, keeping your body in shape after senior night. A quick roadmap. We're going to talk about healthy screenings, healthy living, some college athletics, and also some career planning or career pretending, depending on which way you're going. Why is this important? Is because your health matters. For young adults, for high school athletes, for college athletes, even for older adults, there are many components that are important to your health. So substance use is a huge component to our high school and our college athletes, whether you're trying to figure out supplements you can use, supplements you cannot use, things you're being exposed to, whether that be in social settings or anything like that. All of those matter to see, what I can and cannot do, and how do I best protect myself from not being a victim of substances that I don't want in my body. Depression. So in the pandemic, I think we learned the importance of behavioral health, mental health, access to psychology, psychiatry, because there were lots of people coming to offices from our high schoolers to our grade schoolers, all the way up to adulthood, that were expressing symptoms of depressions, anxieties. There were lots of worries and things like that. And so one of the things we talk about is how to make sure people have access to resources so that you know where to go and get help from. Insomnia. Sleeping is important. So Team No Sleep is good for Instagram and Twitter. Most of us need to get good quality sleep. It builds muscle, it repairs cells, it makes us more alert and accurate for the next day. So sleep is important. Hypertension. So even though we think of blood pressure as something that older adults have, we screen young children, even high schoolers, for hypertension to make sure we are aware of anything that may be coming down the line. Obesity, we are not new to this. We know that obesity in the state of South Carolina and in the USA has become a huge problem. And so we're always trying to educate on that. Infections, things you need to know, how to protect your body. And of course, vaccines, which has become a big conversation in media these days. But vaccines were always important. There are many other things to consider. Mental health. So depression and anxiety is common. If there's anything I want people to know, it's that it's a common condition, and many people actively work on keeping their depression and anxieties stable. There are websites and resources available, because I know that it becomes very challenging when you're trying to get access to people who you can talk to about your mental health. NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Health Illness, is a great website. It can put you into contact with resources, counselors, services, phone numbers to call so that you can find out where you can go to get help, or you can always ask your primary care doctor. There's also Therapy for Black Girls. Therapy for Black Girls also has a podcast and a website where they talk about issues of mental health, but you can go to the site, you can put your zip code in, it will pull up therapists in your area. They have nice profiles. You can see what their strengths, what their weaknesses are, what their concentrations are, and find someone that fits for you. The Trevor Youth Project is also a good resource. This is for our LGBTQ population. They have access to resources and behavioral health and counselor services for young adults and high schoolers who are having challenges with lifestyle, or who need access to therapists and counselors who are specifically trained to address the needs of that community. And then Safe Passage is also the resource to help with just getting people from one resource to the next. And so all of these websites or these resources are excellent for my young adults. I even give them to my older population, but I don't want people to think they're not without resources. You can always ask your primary care doctor or your pediatrician. But if you're trying to research it in the quiet of your own home, because we all start with a little bit of a private search, I think any one of these resources is a great tool. Vaccines. So we have been talking a lot about COVID because, well, the pandemic is here. But for our high schoolers, there's other vaccines to get. So you had a sweet spot, right? You've not needed a whole lot of vaccines right now, but as you transition out of high school into college, the meningococcal vaccine becomes important, especially for dorm living or for people who are going to the military. We want people to have that one. It's going to be the last one that you're required to get before you go into college or into the military. But there's other ones to be aware of. Human papillomavirus can cause cervical cancers, warts, genital warts, and all those things. And we have vaccines that protect against that. The goal is to try to get people vaccinated before they initiate sexual intercourse. But even if that has occurred, we still want people to get them. They are available for both boys and girls, teenagers, men and women. And they are a good tool to protect yourselves from this virus, because once you get it, you got it. And then you just kind of have to monitor to make sure no outcomes happen. So this is a great tool. I recommend that people get their HPV vaccines. COVID vaccines are always the talk, right? We have a new vaccine on the scene, both Pfizer and Moderna. have a bivalent vaccine. What does that mean? It means that there is, for the first time, a new version, and there's more than just one particular strain that we are protecting against. Now, bivalency is not that unique. If you've had a flu shot, you currently get a quadrivalent flu shot because we protect you from influenza A and B, 1 and 2. So valencies in themselves are kind of the natural progression. So as different strains of viruses come out and they do too much damage in the community, we want to protect people from that. So the updated COVID vaccines are out. And of course, we want people to get their flu shots. We're in flu season. So of course, in my office, everybody is getting the question, can we give you your flu shot today? Do you want your flu shot today? So just a plug, I think that the viral season is going to be rough this winter, people. So if you are not protected, or if you're on the fence about getting protected, I want to push you over and tell you to protect yourself, because we're going to have a lot of viruses. We're seeing them very early. RSV and flu are already very cruel to some of my patients. They are not feeling well, they're recovering, but it has not been fun. So I do want people to be aware that there are things you should protect yourself from going into the holiday season. And then of course, the catch up. Have you had all your tetanus shots? Are you MMR vaccinated? And most importantly, I learned this the hard way, you all, because I went back to medical school after working in college athletics and working in corporate America. And the first thing they asked me when I got back to school is, where are your vaccines? And unlike myself when I was in high school, my mother did not have them anymore. And so they were threatening to make me do all of them all over again. So I will tell you, before you leave high school, ask for a copy of your vaccines and keep them in a safe place with your birth certificate and your social security card, because you never know when someone's going to ask you for them again. And even though your state, your home state, keeps a copy of your vaccines, if you move for any reason, the next state won't have a copy. So it's nice to have a copy available that you can always give to the next state so they can update and keep track of it as well. So health is wealth. This is so important. There's been some numbers recently over the past few years that are concerning. 36% of South Carolinians are obese. That's a very high number. And in my office, I talk a lot about food, nutrition, and weight loss because we do a lot of it. And one of the things that always surprises me is no one knows their foods. So, and you know, it's hard. We're very busy. We've got busy lives. For some of you all, you have class and then practice and then home and then homework. For adults, you've got work and then picking up the kids that were in class and practice, home and homework, dinners, activities. It's a lot. And let me tell you, I do not remember what I ate last Monday, okay? So if I'm not tracking these things, it's hard for me to know if I find that I am unexpectedly increased in my weight or even unexpectedly decreased in my weight. I don't know how I got there. So I've got to know my foods. And yes, I have to exercise, but you cannot outwork a bad diet. So foods always are your start. Your exercise is your complement, but your foods are always your start. For our athletes, you exercise anyway, right? You're well-oiled machines. But if you are not feeding this body with nutrients that are going to optimize your performance, then we don't get what we need to get out of these bodies. And so it's important. I often talk to people and they say, well, I thought that was healthy. I didn't think that was so bad. And I ask, well, did you read the label? And they say, no, almost without fail. So reading labels are important. You just want to know even simple things. Well, what's a serving size? Because I feel like I'm not alone when saying that I'm always disappointed in what the serving size is for my favorite snack. I was certain that it should be larger than what it actually is. And so when I start to read it and I think, well, that's more sugars and fat than I was anticipating because I've already had 2 servings of it because the serving size is only 1/4 cup or 1/2 cup. And I just ate a whole cup of something. And now I've had more than I anticipated. I think reading your labels helps you from getting sabotaged. So when you're thinking, well, I've only taken in this much sugar for the day. I've only taken in this much fat for the day. And then you read the label to discover it is actually a little bit more than that. It really helps you figure out what's worth it. What is going to be the best bang for my buck when I eat this snack versus when I eat this meal versus when I'm just out and I'm enjoying myself and I'm having a cheat meal because it happens from time to time. So knowing your food labels or at least reading them so you're aware of what you're having in the moment is very helpful to give yourself a mental check to know when I am on track, when I am doing all the things that I want to do versus when I am not on track and I want to get back to doing the things that I want to do. Your sleep hygiene is important. Phones, TVs, just how we socialize is very disruptive to the sleep patterns, especially in my high schoolers, my college students, and even my elementary school kids. I tell people, if you are having trouble sleeping, the first check is your sleep hygiene. When was the last time you looked at your phone? Some people will get in the bed, they will open it up and they will check TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the things. And unfortunately, looking at that screen tells your body it is not 10 o'clock at night, it's 10 o'clock in the morning and you're not sleepy, you can stay up all night. And then people say, you know what, I just have a really hard time getting to sleep. And that's true, but it's not in the ways that you think. So almost all the phones and watches now have smart apps that kind of say, I want to go to bed at this time. I tell people to take advantage. Why? Because when it's time to wind down for bed, it'll actually shut down your phone so that you don't get so much disruption. You go ahead and put that phone down so that you're not looking in that screen and getting that brain message that tells your brain not to power down. Also, environment, is it a cool setting? Is it dark? How much clothing do you have on? So we want people to have on loose clothing if they need to, nothing that is very restricted, that doesn't interfere with you tossing and turning in your sleep. Is the environment cool? Do you need a fan, even though it's cooler outside now? Do you, is the heat not up too high? All these things are important. And the one thing that you can do for yourself is schedule a bedtime. Now, I get that what time you go to bed on the weekends is not going to be the same time that you go to bed during the week, but you can make a weekend plan and a week plan. So at least having a time that at the same time every day, my system says I am supposed to be powering down, getting ready for bed, putting that routine in place, turning the phones down, making sure the environment is cool and dark, and making sure the clothing that you wear is important, are all things that lead to good sleep hygiene. They result in better quality sleep. And I know that for some of my students, you all don't believe it, but the sleep is better than an all-night cram session. Now, I'm a medical student. I was a medical student before and a resident. I have done them both. I have learned the hard way that the sleep was way more important than the cram session. So you're gonna have to trust me on it, that it's always better. And then as a former student athlete, there's nothing better than getting sleep the night before a game, or actually getting sleep 2 nights before the game, because that's where it's gonna benefit you the most. So let's talk about athletics. So I remember working as a life skills coordinator and a academic advisor in athletics. I talked a lot about students saying, I'm going to the league, I'm going to the league, or talking to high school students saying, I'm going to Division I college, I'm gonna do it. But honestly, the joy of high school athletics and even college athletics is actually a very small group. So the fact that you are here makes you VIP, right? So 7% of high school athletes, 1 in 13, go on to play varsity sports in college. And then less than 2% of high school athletes, which is 1 in 57, go on to play NCAA Division I schools. So when you think about a percentage of students that are currently playing high school sports, which is absolutely beneficial, it builds good leadership skills, good work under pressure, good teamwork building abilities. But the percentage of your high school athletes that are going to go on to play collegiate sports is small. It shrinks. Just like the percentage of students that transitioned into high school to get picked up for high school athletics is also a small group relative to the population of students that are in high school. But what that does mean is that we need plans, right? We need plans for the transition. Whether you are transitioning with your skill set from high school to go do other things that are not athletic, or whether you're transitioning with the skill set from high school that you're gonna go on to develop more and play college athletics, you are still a part of an exclusive group. And that is really what I want people to know. But because of that, career planning becomes really important when you think about life after high school. Now, this has changed a little bit, and I actually give the young people some credit because they feel a sense of freedom that I don't think I always felt. You all can do anything, and the ideas that you come up with on whether that be owning your own business or how you're going to be in media or working, a corporate job, or having plans where you're going to do a little bit of everything, I think is absolutely wonderful, right? You can do it all, but you got to start with a plan to start at least with doing something. You can always change your mind later, but the career planning is important. I think high school and college is a cool time to explore, what do I think I like? I will tell you that if you ask most adults, if they were being honest, most of them will tell you what I thought I was going to do when I was in high school or when I was in college, and what I ended up doing is often different, and that's okay. So I think if there was anything that I could give you, is that there is no pressure here. The pursuit of things you love is always a worthy pursuit. So you do not have to know exactly what you're going to do when you grow up. You just have to be curious and organized enough to pursue it and test it out. Because what you'll find is that anybody that is excited and eager to learn something new, a new skill set, or a new job, you will find people along the way that'll be willing to help. As a life skills coordinator, back when I was doing that before I was a physician, we were really focused on trying to make sure your ideas and your dreams and your thoughts, you could see them happen in real time. That is really the point of athletics, right? To help you see your dreams fulfilled. On the field and on the courts, you do it through discipline and practice and all these things, but you carry that same skill set to off the court, and you do it through creating ideas, making plans and executing them. And so you perform both on and off the court the same way. For your careers, I will tell you that when you're leaving high school and you're going to college, I would talk to my academic advisor and I would talk to my athletic advisor, and I would make my vision seen. If you know there's something that you want to do, tell people. Don't sit on it. Don't keep it a secret. Say it out loud. Even if 2 people don't jump on it, you just need one person that says, oh, that sounds exciting. Let's see how we make that happen. And you never know where that's going to take you, okay? So try it all, do it well, and enjoy it. If you change your minds, I bear witness that it works out okay for the second and third career as well. And that is my presentation on life after sports. Do we have any questions?
If you have any questions, please put them in the question and answer for Dr. Jones.
Okay, so let me get out of this so I can see the questions here, if there are any.
Well, Dr. Jones, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Well, I was not a student athlete, but I've worked in sports long enough to see student athletes evolve. And the one question that I had is, what is the number one thing that former student athletes face after athletics, be it leaving high school and just going to college just to be a regular student, or leaving college thinking they're going to leave, but then having to find something else? What would you say was the number one challenge that they face?
So let me separate that into 2 different questions. So the transition from high school to college, I think one of the bigger things is the independence of just how the days are managed. Everybody is assuming that at your baseline, you know how to get things done. Mm-hmm. And so they're expecting the next time they see you, whatever task that it is has been completed. That can be a challenge, because even for good students in high school, along the way, there's several checks and balances to make sure you're hitting these markers. Well, the markers are broader in college, right? So let's just take class, for instance. In high school, I went to Whitney Young High School in Chicago, Illinois, home of Michelle Obama, top 10 high schools in the nation, right? But even there, it was a college prep high school, but there were small things, assignments, right? Oh, turn in this homework. You're gonna get some bonus points for this. And so you had all these things, right? So by the time you got to your midterm exam, there may have been 5 assignments. Right. And the fact that you completed those assignments, everybody had an idea of where you were, whether that be in your knowledge, whether that be how engaged you are in the curriculum or whatever. That is not the case in college. In college, you can have maybe 2 tests and a paper. So from the time you start class to the midterm, nobody's checking to see are you really learning this or no? We're going to all find out when you take the test. And if you are not actively asking for help or actively checking in with the professor, that can be a huge transition. So I think just adjusting yourself to building your own checks and balance system, that's a huge transition for high schools to college. Time management. So as an academic advisor for the high schoolers, one of the things that we used to do is we used to call them block schedules. So I would literally sit down all of my freshmen and go through their day, right? So they can figure out how much time they have in a day. So we would go from the time they woke up to the time they went to bed, and we put everything in there. Are you eating breakfast? No. Yes. What are you doing? How long does it take you to shower? Do you sit in the bed for 10 more minutes and stare at the wall before you leave out the room? Like, we want to know all that stuff, right? So we don't put your classes in there. I'm going to put your study time in there, but I want to know your lunch breaks. I want to know, are you going up to the student center because you just want to hang out for 30 minutes? We want to put that all in there. Are you going to the club? Listen, I know y'all go to the club. I went to the club when I was in high school. I don't go now, but that's not the point. We will put all those things in there. I want to go out on Thursday night. I want to have some free time on Saturday, so they can see just how much time they have in the day. For athletes, we'll put their practice schedules in there. And so showing them, like, this is the time you have, and then you can stay the course, you can do all things you want to do, I think is important. So that's the hard transition into college. For student athletes, high school to college athletics is a different ball game, right? Most of us go from a big fish in a small pond to big fish everywhere, and that is different. So the pace of your new sport, the training can be challenging. All those things are a transition, and some people feel very overwhelmed, and it takes them a while to get their feet under them. Leaving college is different. I suppose what is probably a little a dramatic jolt to the system is the end is abrupt. 1 minute you are holding your jersey and everybody's clapping and they are going to miss you, and it's your senior night, and the next minute postseason is over, and that's it, the end. And not that everybody's not happy that you came, but you're done. And it's time to transition to something different. And of course, there's people to help out along the way. But I think that ending is quiet. The world is quiet. There's nobody, looking for you for 5 a.m. practices, and there's no weight demand schedules, and there's no training table, and there's no therapy sessions, and all these things. And so that can be quite the transition. I can remember after leaving college, one of the things I missed the most is that my first flight, I was nervous. And I had spent, 4 years plus a medical red shirt year traveling with 12 people that I loved, right? My people, my teammates, right? On planes and all these things. And I'm looking around on this plane by myself, and I'm like, I don't like this at all. I miss my people. And so that can be a transition. And so having a plan or expressing the things that you want to do so people can start putting stuff in place for you, I think is very helpful after college. So at least you got something to look forward to say, well, I got this plan in place and I'm going to go try to get this job, or I'm trying to go and do this. So it kind of keeps your mind busy, so you don't miss all of that, because you get used to your teammates. You love them. You've gone through the fire with them. You've won with them. You've lost with them. Like, these are your people, and you're all about to go in separate directions.
Well, thanks. We do have one question in the chat. And the question is, how important are daily vitamins and or supplements?
Oh man, it depends on who you're asking, if I were being honest. Daily, let me say this. I am not against supplements or vitamins. I think that they're perfectly fine to use, but they do not outpace a bad diet, right? So you cannot have Chick-fil-A breakfast that morning, some nuggets for lunch, and then have a Wendy's side salad, and then take 10 supplements and your multivitamin and be like, I'm getting my nutrients in. Because even though those supplements work to some degree, they're still assuming that you got an overall balanced diet. So if people want to take a multivitamin, that's fine. If people want to take vitamin D supplements, that's fine. Be careful with over supplementing, because they can be concerning. If you've got real questions, I will tell you to ask your primary care doctor, or come see me as a primary care doctor. I'd be more than happy to take a look. But supplements and vitamins are okay, but you have to pair them with a healthy diet. And some supplements need to be taken with food, right? So like if you're taking a vitamin D supplement on an empty stomach, it's not as effective because it's a fat soluble vitamin and you need to take it with a little bit of food. So it just depends on how you're taking them, how much you're taking them, and what the rest of your lifestyle looks like.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Dr. Jones? We did have someone in the chat that said
Supplements also.
supplements are also want to check for third-party testing. Oh, I guess if you have to be tested, you want to be careful taking those supplements.
If you are in college, if you're going to college, I will tell you to run your supplements by your athletic trainer. Because it's important. So that's also something to know, that you have to monitor that. If you're student athletes, you cannot just supplement free, right? You need to know what you're taking. A daily multivitamin, I think, is fine. You know, a vitamin D or something like that. When you get into some of the herbal supplements and this supplement's good for my memory or good for my performance or good for this stuff, you have to be very careful with how you're using those, because they have things in them. And they're not monitored the same way you monitor medicines for, you know, things that we treat in the office.
All right, well, thank you, Dr. Jones, so much for that wonderful presentation. We will transition to and you have a wonderful, wonderful.
You guys have a good day.
Good luck.
Nutrition is coming, so there it is. So nutrition is coming soon, so you'll get your
Definitely.
supplement questions answered.
All right, thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
guys, have a good day.
You too. So as we transition into our next presenter, Dr. Jeffrey Guy, he would speak about protecting and treating your joints with care. Dr. Guy is currently a clinical professor with the Department of Orthopedic Surgery and Sports Medicine at the University of South Carolina School of Medicine and the director of the University of South Carolina Sports Medicine Center. In addition, he serves as the medical director of the Athletic Training Education Program in the College of Education and adjunct professor with the University of South Carolina Arnold School of Public Health, Department of Exercise Science. As a team physician for University of South Carolina Athletics, Dr. Guy works with all of the athletic teams at the University of South Carolina. Dr. Guy received his medical degree and residency training at Harvard University. He completed fellowships in trauma at Massachusetts General Hospital and pediatric sports medicine at Boston's Children's Hospital, and finished his training with the fellowship in sports medicine under the direction of Doctors James Andrews and Bill Clancy at the American Sports Medicine Institute in Birmingham, Alabama. Please welcome to the screen, Dr. Jeffrey Guy.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
You guys had me blocked out.
Uh-oh.
That's
We
okay.
can't- We can hear you, but we can't see. There you go. We can see you now.
Hi, guys. Good morning. How are you? Good. Thank you for the invite. You caught me on a good day because this is my morning. I take a little time to catch up. So this is a great day, and I enjoyed the meeting thus far. And this is really good. So, hey guys, I'm gonna just talk to you guys because I think that this is something I did recently, and I thought it went really well. And I like to do a lot of question and answer. So you guys feel free to ask questions as you go. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me because I have a little bit of a unique story. So all the things that you heard that I've done didn't come easy, and I was very much sitting in your seat long time ago. I'm getting old, so I guess it was quite a long time ago. But you know, I'm from California originally, and I not too long ago went and gave a talk to my my high school as a graduation speaker, and you know, I think you would have enjoyed it because the person who introduced me and said that they probably never would have realized that they would have ever invited me way back when to be a speaker for high school graduation. So I wasn't a very good student, and I played baseball and wanted to be an athlete, and that was kind of all I did. And I didn't do that well in school. I did okay, but you know, I went through a learning process, and I'm gonna give you a little bit of advice, and then we're gonna talk about injuries in a little bit. But I want to give you this story because I think it's a good perspective of something that's somewhere and somebody that went through what you guys are going through and faced a lot of things that you guys faced. So I got a scholarship to play baseball out of high school, but again, I wasn't a very good student. The title of my high school talk that I gave at graduation was, and to tell you how old I am, a lot of my classmates' kids were in the audience. So that was kind of a shock to me. But the title of my talk was Signposts of Life. And I think that these are things that you guys are all going to experience, of things that turn you left or right and turns you make in your future, and what things affect them. And so I think it's something you guys need to hear early, because I think it's something that you should look for. But you know, one of my signposts of life was when I got to college, and I love the previous presentation because, you know, transitioning out of high school, my mom gave me, and this is probably a signpost of life, my mom gave me some really good advice. She said, when you graduate, she said, 98% of the people that you worry about and affect your life are all going to disappear. And you're going to move on to a different place. And I think that's very true. And it's something that you guys all should think about, because all the people you worry about and who affects you and who's going to think what about you and things like that, you know, those people aren't necessarily going to be around the day you graduate or after you graduate. So, you know, when I went to college, those of you who are going to college, not everybody goes to college, but we encourage it. But the big thing I had in college, I was lucky enough to have a coach who talked to me and told me, and all the freshmen, he said, there are 3 things in college for you. He said, there's academics, there's athletics, and your social life. And he told you can only do 2 of the 3 well. He said, if you try to do all 3, he goes, you're going to fail. And that's very good advice. And even if you aren't an athlete, it can be hard to do too. I think that nobody's going to be walking behind you in college, and or even when you're out in the job market, making sure you do all the things that you need to do. So trying to position yourself and take advice from people in college is really important. I think there's a really expose yourself early to people who you think, a lot of you aren't going to know what you want to do. And people changed my mind 5 times. So, you know, if you would have told me I was going to be a doctor and go to Harvard Medical School, I would have laughed at you, because I just wasn't a very good student, you know. I think that there are different ways for you guys to learn, and you have to figure out what's best for you. I figured out in college, and it took me all the way to college to figure this out, that I study better with groups. And so I had a group of friends that I studied with, and we sit down. If I had to read a book and take a test, I wouldn't do very well. Yeah, which is fine. But for me, talking about it and talking about it with my friends over some coffee with feet up at home on a desk or at a library was the way I remember better. And so that was a great transition for me, and learning. I did much better in college than I did in high school, but it was a little bit more structured for me. But be available for and ask questions for from people that are in doing things that you may want to do. Don't be afraid to find mentors in your life early on. If you meet somebody, ask them for their number, their email, and just email them and say, hey, I really enjoyed talking to you, or I really enjoyed hearing what you said. And finding mentors. I used to have a little booklet that I had that had all the business cards that I got from people in it, and I used to keep them because you never know in your future who's gonna affect you, and who you might call later and might help you in your future. So I went on to apply to med school, and I ended up going back to Boston. I was a California kid. I didn't want to leave California. I loved California, and now I'm in South Carolina. How's that happen? Well, I had somebody tell me that I was at a reception at a med school, pre-med school reception, and somebody told me that they said, where did you get accepted to school? And I said, well, I got accepted to Harvard and I got accepted to San Francisco, Stanford, and UCLA, all in California, and that's where I wanted to stay. And she said, I think you should go to Harvard. And I was like, why do you say that? And she said, well, I think it's really important for people to be open to doing something different and going somewhere different in their life, because you'll become a much more well-rounded person. I think that's a really, really important thing. And I think that if you guys have the opportunities to go somewhere new or go somewhere different, I'd take advantage of it. I think it's an amazing experience. I went to Boston. I'd never been there. It was cold as heck, but I was from California. I had to actually buy a jacket, but but it was a great experience for me, and I ended up being there for 13 years and ended up having a great opportunity to go to the South and trained in Alabama. I took care of Auburn University for a year, and now I've been here for 23 years. This is my 23rd year, and I've been taking care of the Gamecocks that whole time. So big transitions, nothing I really expected. The people you come across, take advantage. I think that the biggest message, my mom sent me a poem a long time ago, and it was all based on, it uses a theater as an analogy, but it's called The Front Row. If you guys Google it, put poem and put The Front Row. But it basically talks about the analogy of finding people in your life that are positive and putting them in the front row of your life, in the front row of your theater, and putting the people who are not positive in the balcony, or maybe they're not in your theater at all. But the point of the thing, and it was very, my mom used to buy me lots of stuff and buy me clothes and stuff like that I never wore, because I just used to buy me the craziest stuff. But this is the one thing I have always kept from her, and it's great advice about surrounding yourself with positive people and people that are going to help you move forward, because that's how you move forward in life. And so your peers and who you choose to be around are affect how you are fairly significantly. So it's a great recommendation, and these are some of the things that brought me to where I am today. And I just wanted to toss those at you a little bit to make you think about it. But the best things I can tell you is start opening your eyes now. It doesn't matter if you're a first year in high school or junior high or where you are. All these principles and being aware of your future and talking to people and mentors and even family, friends, but people that are out there that you can learn from is take advantage now. This is the time to start doing that, because I think the previous speaker told you quick transitions. The day you graduate high school, again, the world changes rapidly. The day you graduate from college, the world changes rapidly, and it's not going to wait for you. It changes fairly quickly. And so being prepared to make these transitions is really critical to what you do. Any questions from there thus far before I talk about injuries a little bit?
No questions listed, Dr.
Okay. So I'm gonna tell you a couple of things that I see in my office, and some of the things I give you advice as athletes and as coaches. We're faced with something that is such a critical time, that we see things in our office that I think is the way the world has changed. And it's resulting in a lot of injuries and a lot of critical problems with regard to keeping you guys healthy. I think that when I was younger, I played baseball, but you could only play baseball, during the summer and or your school. And that was it. And it was much more of I play baseball, I play basketball. I think I play different sports, and you rotated sports. These days, people play a lot more, overuse is probably the biggest thing that we see. And all you guys are faced with this is lots and lots of pressure to play on your high school team, your club team. Even if you just play on your high school team, it's a year-round sport now, working out, preparing, the spring, the fall, games, scrimmages, showcases, trying out. And it's every sport. It's swimming twice a day. So, volleyball, soccer, football. I mean, all of the sports, basketball, AAU and high school. And it's a really difficult thing for you guys to be placed in, because the problem is everybody keeps asking, why are we seeing so many more injuries? Well, it's actually not that complicated. It's all about exposure. So if you're on the football field and the ball snapped, everybody on the field there has a chance to get hurt. So, football being an example. So the kids that play, offense and defense and don't come off the field, that's twice as much exposure. Teams that don't have as much depth, and they're the kids that are the moderate athletes on that team end up playing the whole game. So their exposure and their time on the field has much more to do with how many opportunities they have to get hurt. And then once one person gets hurt and they're out, then that transitions to the other people that are on their team that have the same position to doing more. So it kind of feeds on itself. But we have people that play and they're two teams at once. They're working out on two sports at once. So overuse is something that you guys all need to have be conscious of, because being conscious of overuse is, there's one thing to be at your peak of fitness, but if you do too much, it sends you down a road that you're not performing at the level that you can. And so all these things are things that are things for you consciously to be aware of. Coaches, trying to find times where you do something different for your team. Maybe instead of running every day, you take them, to the YMCA and put them in the pool, and we're all going to swim today for exercise. Much different impact on your body. Different, hard days, easy days. Runners, track and field. I've got kids that come in and I go, they have a stress fracture in their leg, and I go, how many days a week are you running? 7 or 6. And you can't, so that's, if you run 6 days a week, then you can't, then you take one day off and then another 6, that's 12 out of the 13 days that you're running. And that's a prescription for a problem. That same mix, if you switch it and say, I run 3 days on and 1 day off, and 3 days on, that's still 6 out of 7, but it's a break in between. So, you just have to be conscious of your activities. And I think that in how much you're playing and how much you have to give your bodies rest. Dr. Andrews, where I trained, one of his philosophies is you should have at least 3 weeks twice a year where you do something different. A lot of kids are doing the same thing over and over, swimming and a lot of repetitive sports that do the same activity, same body parts, same throwing, same kicking, same position, same uniform. When you do things repetitive, those body parts wear down. And so doing alternative activities, playing a different sport, those are all, positive. So those are some of the ways to keep yourself healthy. I think the previous person talked about nutrition. You guys have to eat. And I'm explaining it to you because I have this conversation I had twice yesterday in my office. Eating healthy is one thing, but you have to eat something. So I asked somebody came in, I'll give you an example. Somebody came in yesterday and they said that they were trying to gain weight, for instance. And I said, so what time did you eat last night for dinner? And they said 7 o'clock. And I said, did you eat anything after that? They said, no. And I said, did you eat breakfast? And they said, and it was about 2 in the afternoon. They said, no, I don't have time to eat breakfast. And I said, okay. I said, what about lunch? And they said, well, yeah, I try to eat something at lunch, maybe a yogurt or a small sandwich or something. I said, all right. So you're telling me that you went from 7 o'clock at night all the way to the morning to 7 o'clock, that's 12 hours. And you didn't eat anything and you went all the way to lunch. So that's another 5 hours. So it's 17 hours out of your 24 hours that you don't eat. And the problem is the only way your body uses energy is by catabolizing it uses your fat stores as energy. And so there's no way you're going to be in a positive balance, gain weight. And even if you're trying to lose weight, it's the same kind of problem in reverse. So you can't eat at night at 11 o'clock and then eat multiple times a day. But it also has to do with the types of food you're eating. So coming up with some type of eating well, but is very important. But eating something is also important. Everybody says breakfast is the most important food of the day. It is, but again, you can't go 17 hours and not eat. It's just not healthy for you, regardless of what kind of athlete you are. So, see, these are some of the big things that you guys need to do: preparing your body, stretching, and eating properly. All these things are all things that are prescriptions for you not to end up in my office. And but when you get hurt, we're there. We try to give you guys. We take care. Our practice takes care of most of your high schools, and basically we try to give you the same care that we give the USC athletes and the Clemson athletes. So, but you have to be aware, listen, and be conscious of some of the things that you need to do to be to perform better and to perform as a good athlete. So, am I going over time?
No, you're doing good on time.
You want to have time for questions at all, or do you have?
Yes. So, Dr. Guy, thanks for that information. Are there any questions for Dr. Guy? So one of the questions I have, I just finished working on a collegiate level after 25 years. And one of the major injuries that's been continual are knee injuries. What are some preventive things that can be done to minimize the amount of knee injuries that occur?
Yeah, I think you're right. And so my partner and I, Dr. Mazway, and I both have had, it's probably the most we've ever seen in terms of like knee, but also specifically ACL injuries in the last 3 weeks. Yeah, I've probably seen, he's probably seen about 10 or 12, and I've seen about 15 to 18 just in the last 3 or 4 weeks. And now we take care of a lot of people, and that's college and high school, but it's definitely increased from what we typically see. And And it's a little bit of what I told you. I think that some of it has to do with exposure and some of the and opportunities. So some of the kids, they're getting hurt, play on both offense, defense, and football. It's football season. Basketball players, basketball is an overused sport. Most of these kids playing basketball these days are playing, AAU, and they play for their high school. So there's very little downtime, and there's a significant amount of pressure for them to play. So, a tremendous amount of pressure. So, we do physicals on not only the high school kids, but we do physicals from kids coming out of high school every year for USC, and all these kids coming in as recruits, soccer, softball, baseball, football, and all of them are coming in injured. It's unreal how many kids have either had surgery recently or they're injured and need surgery. I saw 3 people in one sport real quick that were recruits coming in to be seen, and 2 of the 3 of them need surgery. So it's difficult, and I think there's a lot of pressure on parents and a lot of pressure on the kids to play. And I talked to a recruit recently, and I thanked their parent because I thought that they had a very good perspective. They just said, she's already got a scholarship to go to college, and she said there's no reason for me to subject her to all this playing when she's going to college. Well, that's true, but it's a perspective for lots of parents. And then listen, the kids want to play. Who's going to turn down, hey, we want you to play for our travel team, and we go all over the place and we get so many scholarships and our kids are in colleges, blah, 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 blah. It's very difficult, lots of pressure for the kids. So it's a difficult thing to navigate. Now, it's difficult for parents, it's difficult for coaches, it's difficult for the doctors, and it's definitely difficult for the athletes because of course they want to play. And they don't have these conversations a lot of time until they end up in my office. So it's a lot of pressure for kids to play and continue to play and play on multiple teams. I've had people come in and say they've been playing on 3 teams at the same time. So and it's not the individual coaches pressure. Sometimes the individual coaches sometimes are doing the right things, but they don't know necessarily they're playing on 2 other teams. So it's a lot of pressure, and I think some of that. I don't think that the bodies are different. I will tell you this: kids are bigger and stronger and faster. These kids are like little locomotives running around hitting each other, and soccer is a contact sport. Football, of course, is a collision sport. Basketball is very, and these kids are, offensive linemen, and when I first start taking care of Carolina, if you were 270, 280, and 6 feet tall, they really liked you, and that's kind of what the goal was. We've got kids now that are 6'8" and 350, but not only that, they can run, and they're fast. They're one of the fastest people on the team. Jadeveon Clowney, locomotive running across the field. And so the explosive injuries that we see are a lot more too, and the knee injuries are becoming bigger. It's not just an ACL; it's ACL plus a couple other things here, fractures, and saw 2 broken ankles in my office yesterday. So it's rough. The whole spectrum is bigger. It's a bigger piece of pie than it used to be, and it's a machine, and it's hard to get out.
So we had 2 questions to come in. The first one is, what are your thoughts on middle school students playing varsity sports?
So that's a great question. I think it's a little bit of the same problem. So I had somebody in my office yesterday, same thing. They're hurt, they're in middle school, they want to play Thursday, and if he plays Thursday, he'll be able, and he does good, he'll be able to, the middle school season is over, and they can turn around and they can go from middle school to play with the varsity. for the rest of the season. So you got a situation where a middle schooler who's pretty good looking kid, is feeling pressure to play injured on Thursday, so that and the dad feels pressure too, so that he might be able to play varsity the following week. And I told him, I said, what year are you in school? And he said, I'm a freshman. Well, there's not really anything that freshman's going to do on the field that's going to impact his ability to play in college if that's what he wanted to do. So, but it's a lot of pressure for them to feel that they shouldn't play, or hey, I'm going to let my ankle get better before I play and not make it worse. Which is what I told the dad. I said it may be possible for you to play Thursday if you're better, but at the end of the day, if he makes it worse Thursday, he's not going to be able to play and the varsity either. So and it wasn't really that big of a game. They just wanted him to play to be able to play for the varsity. So I think that it's a difficult trap. I think that playing both, which some kids do, is probably not a good thing because of the same reason. The same reason they're playing two sports at once effectively, right? They're playing on two separate teams. And the problem is that, what do you do with a kid that plays Thursday, wants to play Friday? It's difficult. It's a difficult thing for the leagues to navigate as well. That's because some schools just don't have enough people, and they look at it as, hey, we want to give them some playing time to play on the junior varsity, but it's going to be a varsity member. So, I get that thought process too, but the problem is you can't play them the whole time on both. So, which some kids do. So yeah, difficult, good question. Don't have a perfect answer.
And the next question was, if you're running every day for track and you get no days off, what can you do to not put too much stress on yourself or to help with that? So they're running every day with no days off.
What can you do with what was the question?
What can you do? Let me turn up so I make sure you can hear me.
No, I can hear you.
Oh, you can, okay. What can you do to not put too much stress on yourself or to help with the amount of stress that you're putting on yourself?
Yeah, I wish I could be king and go like snap that and make the rule. I think that there are some levels of the runners, and here's the difficulty from both sides. If you look at from the coach's side, you might have 2 kids that have stress fractures, but you got 10 kids that don't. And so it's very difficult to say, well, we got to change the philosophy for everybody on the team because we've got some kids getting hurt. Well, that may be the necessary change. But it's all about repetitious. Every single day, your body makes bone and breaks some old bone down. Makes bone, breaks some old bone down. And that's how your body, your bone stays healthy. It's a composite. So like if you drive over the asphalt in your driveway over and over and over, you get some cracks and you get the bigger cracks, and then you eventually you get a pothole. Your bone is the same kind of material. It's a composite. The difference is if you break down your bone a little bit, your body resorbs it and puts new bone there. The problem that happens with stress injuries is that you break more bone down than you can keep up with making. So you turn into a negative balance. That's the problem with running every day, is that when you go out and you run 5 miles or 3 miles or 4 miles, it doesn't matter. The problem is you're breaking some of your bone down. And the question is, can your body keep up with it trying to make new bone? Yeah, and kids that get stress injuries aren't keeping up. And so everybody's body is a little bit different and everybody's anatomy is different. And so some people are subject themselves to run either to that type of stress and they get stress fractures. So, what I tell a lot of runners is that you have to find some way. It's not that you can't condition yourself every day. Does it have to be running? You know, could you have one day where you're working out on a spin bike and you're biking, or swimming, great aerobic exercise, but mix a swimming day in there so that you're not pounding on your legs. So you don't have to sit on the couch and do nothing. Okay, but find some other way to condition yourself and to keep your exercise aerobic that doesn't involve pounding on your legs the whole time. You know, rotating sports, taking a break sometime, take 2 or 3 days off. Everybody feels like it's going to leak out their body. Oh my God, there's my talent. It just rolled down my driveway. It doesn't happen like that. And usually people actually do better when they've taken a quick break.
So that's also in conjunction with another question. Is it true that walking has a positive effect on the body, and could walking be an alternative? I know you said swimming, but can walking be an alternative to a day off?
Sure. And here's what I'll tell you. This is what I tell my patients that have arthritis, but also kids that are runners and things like that. The sequence that I tell people is very simple. Swimming is better than biking. You know, swimming, you're floating in the pool, you know, swimming, and obviously your legs are not being loaded. Biking, your weight's on the seat, not on your legs. Elliptical is next. An elliptical machine, you're actually vertical and you're doing a running motion, but your feet don't lift up off the pedals. So they're not pounding every time they hit. So elliptical would be next. Walking or a treadmill is next. So walking on a treadmill, walking on the street, whatever. And then the last one would be, running. So yes, walking is absolutely better, and it's less impact. Every time you put your foot down walking, you put 5 times your body weight through your knee and your ankle and your foot. 5 times your body weight. So you can imagine how much running is. So walk on a softer surface. Do you have to walk on cement? Can you walk on grass? Can you go walk on the beach in the sand? I mean, whatever opportunity, getting a good pair of shoes that when your foot hits the ground, there's a squish to it. And if you've had those shoes 6 months, a year or whatever, and you're running in them, I guarantee the amount of absorption of your foot hitting the ground and it absorbing some of the energy is almost zero. It just doesn't happen. You've got to keep up with new shoes and to keep that ability to have it. Everybody knows when you put a new pair of shoes on, you feel like you're walking on pillows, you know. Well, that goes away after 4 or 5 months, 6 months, depending on how much you run. So having some running shoes that you only use for running is important. But also if you go for walks and things like that, having really good cushioned shoes is helpful. Oop, I lost you.
Okay, there I go. Okay, so the last question is, what are your views on a vegetarian diet for high school athletes?
Vegetarian diets are fine. I think that, there are so many diets out there and so many. I think that the big thing, and I think that they said it earlier, the big thing for everybody is to make sure that they're extremes. I mean, I'm happy if I can get kids to eat, period. I told the mother yesterday, I said, honestly, if you can get him to eat, I said, that'd be the first step. Then you can worry about what he's eating. I said, but just eating is the first problem. And I said, in terms of the vegetarian diet, long as it's in moderation and you have, as I think everybody should do, if you have the opportunity to see your pediatrician every year and get a physical, I think that's a great recommendation to make sure you're healthy and make sure that vegetarian, because saying vegetarian diet is a world of differences of, are you on a vegetarian diet, but you don't eat very much? Well, that might be a problem. So like I said, the type of diet is one thing, but making sure you do eat is different. So if you're a vegetarian plus you don't eat for 17 hours, that might be a problem. So I think being a vegetarian is fine. There's a number of people who have different philosophies of what they want to eat and things like that, which is fine, long as you consult with your doctor and consult with a pediatrician and make sure that you're doing it, properly, I guess is the point.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Guy, for the
welcome, guys.
information you provided to us.
Anytime.
You have a wonderful day.
All right, guys.
All right. So our final presenter for this morning's session is Miss Annie Anderson, who will talk about healthy choices, healthy decisions. Ms. Anderson is a registered and licensed dietitian in the state of South Carolina. She has been since 2016. She is board certified specialist in obesity and weight management. She earned her undergraduate degree in exercise science with a minor in health promotion, education, and behavior at the University of South Carolina. She earned her master's in food, nutrition, and culinary science at Clemson University. She has worked as a research associate and registered dietitian at the Center of Integrated Oncology and Survivorship before joining the business health team. Annie can provide nutrition counseling on a variety of topics, including, but not limited to, prevention of disease and management of symptoms for a variety of conditions such as heart disease, prediabetes, metabolic syndrome, and weight management. Other topics of discussion can be on general nutrition and wellness, meal planning, and sports nutrition. Annie loves all things food, dogs, running, and sharing nutrition knowledge with others. Please welcome to the screen, Annie Anderson.
Hi, everyone. Are you able to see my slideshow? Is that presenting through?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, happy to be here. And it's really wonderful to follow two wonderful speakers as well. You got a lot of great information and happy to help contribute. As you can see, I work with Prisma Health. I'm a registered dietitian, and we are going to talk about healthy choices, healthy decisions. I'm going to do a broad sort of spectrum overview of why we want to eat healthy, why it's important, not only for learning, but also for performing in sports, and then happy to help answer questions at the end. So you can see we're going to talk about essential nutrients, why all of these things, how do they come into play with what we do to metabolize our food. I'm going to emphasize the healthy plate model, and I'll give you guys some really excellent resources, specifically if you're looking at sports nutrition. The Olympic Committee, it's teamusa.nutrition, has some wonderful information regarding athletes' plates. And then we're going to talk about some small steps to get started, because again, we're going to be talking about healthy eating, but what can we do? What can these small shifts be? And then we'll summarize and answer questions. So everybody always thinks about our carbs, our protein, our fat when it comes to calories as our essential nutrients, but they fail to recognize sometimes that we have other nutrients that don't necessarily give us calories, but they are just as important to help metabolize our foods, help with fluid balance, help with bone, and then also keeping us hydrated. So that would be our non-energy yielding nutrients. And that's what we're actually going to start with. So our vitamins are essential for normal cell growth and function. We have what are called water soluble and then fat soluble. So water soluble, we digest these daily. They don't really stay in the system as long as fat soluble. Fat soluble do get stored in the body and actually require a little bit of fat in order to be useful. So when we think about carrots, a great way to absorb that vitamin A, maybe a little bit of guacamole, a little bit of salad dressing or dip can help you absorb that vitamin A. Our B vitamins are going to be really important for helping us metabolize food and utilize that energy. And then we also have vitamin C that's lumped into that category. We had a really wonderful question when the first speaker spoke about supplements. And one thing I wanted to highlight is that I agree with what she was saying as far as we don't necessarily have to have a supplement if we're eating a varied diet. That being said, if you get lab work done and you realize there's a nutrient that's low and you're not able to get that through food alone, yes, by all means, please consult with your physician, please consult with a dietitian to make sure you are getting all those nutrients in conjunction with a healthy diet. You want to make sure that things are third-party tested, because if you are a student athlete, you want to also make sure that something you're taking isn't going to interfere with regulations. USP, Consumer Labs, and then NSF certified. These are all companies that verify that that supplement is in fact what they say it is. But you always want to make sure it's third-party tested. Another thing to think about too is that you just want to make sure you are trying to do foods first. There's so many synergistic effects of eating that food versus the supplement alone. And you always hear the anecdote of you can't outrun a bad diet. And it really is true. We don't want to sit there and try to have the chicken nuggets, the fries, the soda, and then say we're taking a supplement and that's going to cover all the things we need. So definitely encouraging a varied diet. Minerals, these again are important for fluid function, for bone growth, for hormones, regulating your heartbeat. We have two major categories. So there's major minerals and trace minerals. Major minerals just mean we need those in larger quantity. Trace minerals, we need those in just smaller amounts. And doesn't mean it's good or bad in one way or the other. It just means that we have varying requirements. And certain things, depending on if you are, a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, absolutely there may be some nutrients of concern to focus on to make sure you are getting those through other means. And that is where a doctor, a dietitian, specifically a sports dietitian, can be extremely helpful to make sure you are getting all of those things. One mineral that we tend to get a lot of in the US diet is sodium. And I always like to ask people, how much do you think a typical US adult gets? And usually, it's around, I get varying answers, but most of us probably get between 3,400 to 3,600 milligrams in a day. And we have varying needs. Again, if you are a high training athlete that is excreting lots of sodium and fluid, your needs are going to be different than the typical US adult and even, child. And so that's why it is important to consider where the sodium is coming from. A lot of our sodium comes from highly processed and packaged foods. So if we can transition to cooking more foods from home, watching out for how highly processed something is, you can see that our ramen soup here is about 800 milligrams of sodium. If we were to go get some fettuccine chicken Alfredo, close to 1,500 milligrams of sodium in a day. So again, really just want to make sure we're considering the quality of the food over the quantity. And that's again, something I highlight with my patients. I really am concerned with that quality. How full is it going to make you? How satisfied are you? How processed is it? You think about if we look at some quinoa, we can see where that's come from. We cook it, it relatively stays the same versus we don't see Pop-Tart trees. And how far processed has something gone from that state to equal that Pop-Tart, and what's it going to do as far as that quality of nutrition for you? This is some other foods to just highlight where sodium typically comes from. And then when we focus on water, water is so essential. We are 50 to 70% water. It helps keep our joints lubricated. It helps carry nutrients and keeps things going to our cells, takes waste away, prevents constipation. Because if I'm telling people to increase the quality of their carbs to get more fiber, if we don't increase fluids, it's going to make us more constipated. So you really want to make sure you're getting adequate amount of fluids. And it also helps with satiety. And one thing with athletes and performance, if you are 2% dehydrated, that actually can start to affect performance. So that's why it's so important to have your baseline fluid needs, but then also considering, how much water weight have we lost throughout that sport or throughout that practice, because you want to make sure you're replenishing each pound of water weight with anywhere from 2 to 3 cups of fluids, and electrolytes might be required as well. These are just general recommendation for boys and girls between the ages of 14 to 18 years old. You can see these are those baseline needs. And then on top of that, you'd want to make sure that you're replenishing with those fluids post-workout. And you can definitely get it through other sources. Watery fruits and vegetables will provide some of that fluid. Broths, if you're drinking like a chicken noodle soup, things like that, you definitely can still facilitate getting fluids through other means. But this is to highlight, we really want to watch out when things are coming from really sugary beverages like the sweet teas, the soda, things like that. You want to think about what benefit am I getting from that beverage that can help, really make sure that I'm getting not additional any added sugar calories, but also just can I get those fluids to help hydrate me. Now we're going to talk about, our carbs and protein and our fats. So all three of these make up our calorie needs. And, I get asked a lot about, well, what are my calorie needs? What are my macronutrient needs? And it honestly varies day to day for people. We can come up with a baseline recommendation, but it all boils down to where are those calories coming from and what is the quality of that food that you're using to help repair, give you energy, help with reduce inflammation, all of those things. So with our first our first macronutrient, we have carbohydrates. This one provides 4 calories per gram. And again, we can think about our fiber, our sugar alcohols. Different foods that contribute to our carbohydrate are going to be our starches. So think your breads, pasta, rice, your starchy vegetables, and those are going to be our beans, potatoes, peas, corn. We have sugary beverages, sugary desserts, fruits, fruit juices. And then we also get some fiber from our non-starchy vegetables. These don't provide a lot of starch. They're really going to just give us that fiber, and that's what helps fill us up. The color that we see in our fruits and vegetables also helps to provide antioxidants. We also can get some carbohydrate through our dairy. Oop. I apologize. I hope you guys can still hear me.
Yes, we can still hear you.
Okay, for some reason, my PowerPoint just kind of messed up. Can you still see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
You'll see it.
Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. There we go. I apologize, my internet is being a little crazy. There we go, let me see. Let me see what's going on. Next, I could talk about protein. I apologize, I don't have the slides in front of me, but protein is also going to provide 4 calories per gram. And when we think about our protein foods, we typically think about animal products, but we can also consider plant-based options. Some of our really great animal sources might be from dairy, eggs, our chicken, fish, maybe beef. When we think about our plant-based sources, a lot of times you can incorporate beans, tofu. You can do, one thing that I always like to highlight is quinoa. Quinoa actually contains all of our essential amino acids, which are very similar to a meat product in that sense, which is really excellent. So if you're wanting to enhance the quality of your grain, but also getting an excellent plant-based protein, quinoa might be a good one in there. Mix it with some beans, can have a really great option. Especially we had that question about a vegetarian athlete earlier. And I definitely think it really boils down to, are you eating to get all of your needs? Because there are going to be certain circumstances where somebody may not be able to eat a certain food group, either through preference or through intolerance. So definitely just finding another means to get those nutrients. Our last nutrient that we can focus on is our fat. So fat, a lot of people, give it a bad rap, but it is so excellent to help you as far as reducing inflammation. It really just boils down to, where is the fat coming from? We want to focus on those great sources that are going to enhance and improve our cholesterol and to reduce inflammation. That's primarily going to be through our monounsaturated fats. So think avocado, olive oil, our nuts and seeds, peanut butter. Another great fat is one of our polyunsaturated fats, and that's going to be our omega-3 fatty acids. That is typically going to be through fatty fish. It can be through tuna, salmon. You can actually get some in lake trout. You can also get some of your omega-3s through walnuts, flaxseed, and chia seed. One thing to note for flaxseed, you want to make sure it's ground. So if you're wanting to make sure it's more bioavailable, if you're using it in a smoothie or if you're using it in your oatmeal, making it ground helps you absorb more of that fat-soluble vitamin. Another thing to consider, so these are all talking about our macronutrients. So what we want to focus and transition to is thinking about the plate method. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but I think the plate method is probably the easiest way to visualize how do we portion those foods on the plate. And you want to think of your plate being cut into quarters. So we have a quarter of it for our fruits, a quarter of it for our vegetables, a quarter of it for our starchy foods, and then a quarter of it for our protein. And so that's where it can be a variety of different sources. You can have animal-based products in there. You can choose plant-based sources if you choose. You want to think about the quality and how processed something is. So if we're used to having, say, white bread, white rice, refined products, can we slowly transition to where we're getting something that's going to provide more of those complex sources? We also want to think about, as far as with like fruits and vegetables, where's that sodium come from? Where is that added sugar coming from? And so can we make sure that things are more natural? And so when I say the word natural sugar, we want to make sure it's coming from our plain dairy, our fruits. Those are really going to be excellent sources. And then we want to try to consider small transitions and what can we do to switch over, because I don't want students to feel like they have to change their whole eating style. So like I said, one small swap, instead of having white bread, maybe you transition to try to get 100% whole grain bread. Instead of having a Fig Newton, Can we transition to incorporate fresh fruit? And when we do have that fresh fruit, can we pair it to make sure that we're getting that sort of complete snack? When I talk about complete snacks with people, I always sort of reference a complete outfit. And so if you think about your shirt and your pants, think about your shirt is your carbs and your pants are your protein or healthy fat. Can you pair that fresh fruit with a cheese stick or with peanut butter? And then when you think about your meals, trying to figure out if you're not getting a fruit, like we mentioned earlier with breakfast, lunch, or dinner, can you transition to have that as a snack? So snacks can sort of be the way to bridge the gap between your meals. So that could be where you incorporate your whole grains, a fruit, a vegetable. If you choose to have dairy, maybe a Greek yogurt and you top it with berries. Any questions from you guys?
Yes, Miss Annie, there were some questions that were asked with the previous presenter.
Yeah.
And so you named some of the foods, but what are some of the other foods, like the actual food that good healthy foods to eat? I know the like foods that's high in fiber, low in sodium, just that we would eat every day. So
Absolutely. So just like going through different food groups. So absolutely your brown rice, your quinoa, if you can do 100% whole grain pasta. For those athletes that might be gluten intolerant or have celiacs, chickpea pasta is a really great substitute and you get a really excellent protein and fiber from that. When we think about our fruits, there really are no bad fruits or vegetables. Just try to consider, if it's juice versus the whole fruit. Think about it, it takes 4 to 6 oranges to make that juice and you're going to drink it super quickly versus if you can eat that whole orange, you got to peel it. You're going to get full from the fiber. So trying to make sure when we can getting those whole fruits and vegetables, because we also again get that water content from it, which can contribute to our fluid needs. As far as protein sources, really aiming for lean protein, and what that boils down to is less saturated fat. So can we get, grilled chicken breast? Can we get some fish in there? Can we do lean beef or lean pork? Maybe trying to do some plant-based, doing meatless Mondays. Could you do black beans and rice and maybe do some, veggies, like toss in some peppers and onions? Really great way to get a variety of different nutrients that all complement each other and can also contribute to that protein and complex carb.
great. And so the next question is, what high energy food do you recommend and how close to sporting events for maximum performance?
That's such a great question. So it's going to be different for everybody. It really does play a role on, how do you handle that food? You want to try to think about something anywhere from 1 hour to 4 hours. So if you have time to have a complete meal, you have time to digest that food, you're going to have much larger quantities as far as the macronutrients, things like that. If you have 4 hours versus 1 hour, if you only have an hour to get something in, you're going to want to have something that may be a little bit easier on the stomach, not high in fat, something that's going to help balance that carb and that protein so that you can go into that workout feeling fueled. And it also depends on the type of sport you're doing. Everybody has different GI tolerance. I always tell people to try out different foods when you're training, when you're practicing, not the day of. Because if you're trying out a new food and you realize, oh my gosh, my stomach feels terrible, that you don't want to do that to yourself. And so that's where, and I can email the SC High School League. I can send you guys really great sort of 1-2 page handout on different ideas, but definitely high energy foods. I think like oatmeal with banana and peanut butter. That could be a super fast breakfast. And if you have time to sit down and digest that, great. If you're not able to, and you literally are running out the door and you're about to do your workout, maybe that banana with a little bit of peanut butter. So it, again, just varies based on what your window of opportunity. And so you do want to make sure you are waking up in time, especially if it's college athletes and you've got really early morning practices. You want to make sure you're waking up and that you are there eating prior to those workouts. Okay.
Okay, yeah. And so the next question is, how often do you think as an athlete you should eat meat?
Ooh, you know what? It really is up to your individual preference. I think there's pros and cons to all different styles of eating patterns. There's so many different diets. My big takeaway is don't get locked into fad diets. You don't necessarily have to eliminate certain food groups. If you have an allergy, an intolerance, or if it's just a preference, I really think it's individualized for that person. Great question.
And the second part of the question, I believe, is, and also how often should you eat as an athlete? And is it healthy to eat until you're full?
Ooh, that's a great question. I do a lot of focus on mindful eating and intuitive eating. And that really is, you are paying full attention to your hunger and satiety signals. I actually have to work with a lot of people because a lot of people sometimes skip breakfast.
Okay, I think you froze up.
I apologize. My internet is not working with me today.
Okay.
I'll get back to the question. So breakfast is can be an important part to that day. I don't recommend, fasting prior to exercise activities. I think it makes it can limit your eating window. So I really encourage people to try to eat within 30 to 60 minutes of waking up. But to the question we were talking about, making sure that we're eating, actually, let me pull it up one more time, because what was the question? It was, how often should someone eat? So really trying to gauge, if you think about your hunger and satiety, you want to make sure, out of a scale of 1 to 10, we don't want to be so hungry that we're going to eat anything and everything, and we may not make the best choice, but we also don't want to be so full that we feel sick. So I usually tell people, if you can sort of gauge your hunger on a 4 to 7 range, where, okay, you realize I'm hungry, my stomach's growling, or maybe you start to get a headache, or it's a low blood sugar. That's when you want to make sure you've got something, whether it's that meal or that snack. And as you're eating, try to make sure you're really focused on eating, because a lot of us try to multitask, and it takes 20 minutes for your brain to recognize that you've got food in your stomach and that you've got something there. So if you slow down, you actually might realize that you feel satisfied. You don't necessarily have to clean the plate. Other times you may have had a really hard workout, and you know what? You do need to complete that plate, and that's perfectly fine. I think the main point is to eat. Think of it like an air conditioning unit. We want to get that signal that, hey, I'm hungry, and then once we feel satisfied and full, we shut off and we go about our day, and then another meal or snack comes along when that air conditioning unit kicks on. So I hope that helped answer your question.
Okay, this next question, aside from protein, which is more important, starches, sugars, fruits, veggies, and or dairy?
Ooh. So they're all going to be important in a variety of different ways. Some of it may be just those nutrients we need. Some of it's enjoyment too, because I'm never going to tell you guys you can't have something with sugar in it, whether it's added. It's all about the balance, 80-20. So you want to think of it too. We don't usually eat nutrients in isolation. They're usually sort of paired, and they all contribute in this synergistic effect. You really do want to focus as an athlete. Carbs are going to be for your energy, protein for your repair. Fat is going to help with satiety, but also absorbing those fat soluble vitamins. So trying to get a variety of those nutrients in a variety of different dietary patterns.
Okay, we have this. Can you go into details about the third-party testing of supplements and why?
Yep. So the FDA does not regulate your supplements. They regulate drugs, food, but they do not regulate supplements unless harmful. So a supplement, there's a really great study. They looked at Consumer Lab, was actually looking at melatonin, and they looked at 20 different products, and they looked at what the label stated and actually tested it to see if it was in fact that amount. And it varied it was insane, all the way up to like 200% more to like 80% less than what was actually on the label. So you always want to make sure, regardless of what supplement it is it third-party tested? So that ensures that a third party has come in and said, yes, your supplement that you've got on the shelf is actually that supplement. You also want to make sure you're not taking things that aren't necessary. That's why it's so important to talk to your athletic trainer, your doctor, whoever your team physician is for your school. a dietitian, pediatrician. You want to make sure everybody's on board and knowing what you're taking, because you don't want to get disqualified. And you also don't want to over supplement, because fat soluble vitamins in particular, they only can store, and again, this is pending that we're healthy and not, deficient in something, but, fat soluble vitamins can be stored for a high, they can get toxic if you have too much of that fat soluble vitamin. So making sure that you are just trying to get at foods first and think of supplements as sprinkles on a cupcake.
Thank you for answering all those questions. Are there any more questions for Ms. Anderson? I think we have any more. I do have one question. You spoke about changing your habits and changing your diets in moderation. What are some of the things you can do? Just cut out the fats at a certain point? What about intermittent fasting?
Ooh, intermittent fasting. So I like to think of, if you can transition think of it, we want to sort of mimic our natural wake-sleep cycle. So obviously we don't want to be eating when we're going to sleep, but that being said, if you are hungry and it's in the evening, it's after your dinner, that's your body's way of saying you're hungry, you need that. Check to make sure you're not sort of mindlessly eating, but if you are hungry, absolutely have that snack in the evening. When you wake up in the morning, try to have something within 30 to 60 minutes to wake your appetite, because think of it, breakfast means breaking the fast. That triggers your body to utilize that energy, especially if you're going to be going into a workout, you're slightly dehydrated, slightly going to be low in your blood sugar. You want to make sure you're topping off those stores and going into that workout, going into studying where you are focused on that and then not focused on being hungry. So that being said, I'm not a huge advocate for intermittent fasting, but definitely willing to hear people out when I do one-on-ones to kind of see how can we reframe that to be a healthy eating window.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, that ends our panelists for this year's Student Health and Wellness Summit. Before we end the webinar, we would like to bring on the South Carolina High School Lead Commissioner, Dr. Jerome Singleton, with the closing remarks.
Good morning. What great information shared. Thank you to the presenters. Dr. Jones, a body in tip-top shape, life after sports. Dr. Guy, protecting and treating your joints with care. Dietitian Anderson, healthy choices, healthy decisions. Great topics, great information shared. Thank you to the presenters. I appreciate you engaging the presenters with your questions. While face-to-face is preferred, virtual still provides us with great opportunities to share and learn. Knowledge is power. Once you know better, you're expected to do better. So I challenge you to use the knowledge to improve yourselves. I also challenge you to share the knowledge. This has been an outstanding summit. Congratulations to all involved, the organizers, the presenters, and the participants. Job well done. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you, Dr. Singleton. Well, as you know, we are winding down the fall sports, which means championships are upon us. Today, we have golf championships for 3A, 4A, and 5A. Next month, we will have our volleyball championships, tennis championships, cross-country championships, and our cheer state finals. Also next month, we will have our winter sports captain's course. Our football finals will be in the first week in December. Thank you once again for attending this year's Student Health and Wellness Summit.